I am Sondra Kornblatt from Restful Insomnia.
And I am Dr. Caretha Yeager from Jade Path Acupuncture.
And we are here we've known each other a little bit online, but we're here together to share with people how to support their healing, how to move into rest and reduce stress in these pretty strange times of the pandemic. So it's basically going to be a conversation with each of us getting to know what we do, and hopefully that will help the people who are here watching this be able to navigate these times better. So can you start just letting me know a little bit more about who you are and what you do, and we can start from there.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for extending the invitation for me to come on and share a little bit what I can to help people feel a little bit more calm and a little bit more grounded during all of the change and the shift that's happening right now. And if you're watching this, you're obviously doing a great job about that already, just seeking out the information. So my name is Caretha Yeager. I am a doctor of Chinese medicine in Chicago. I own an acupuncture practice that I've had for 7 years, and I also am a Reiki master teacher. So I do a lot with the physical body, but I also work a lot with the energetic body to help people with various physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual ailments.
That's great. And how long have you been doing that?
7 years.
Okay, great. And I am Sondra Kornblatt. I've developed Restful Insomnia, which is a pathway to allow people to move into deep rest, to renew at night, and to welcome sleep. And I also help people with many of those skills during the day to reduce stress during the day, deal with shame, which sometimes comes up, especially if you can't rest. And I'm really happy to be able to offer some of the tools that have helped me and some of the people that I've talked to in these times of high stress, I'd say, and lots of change. So what have you seen so far? What do you think would be the most helpful to people just to get grounded in their bodies and their energy and what they can do to support their healing?
Sure. Great question. I think that the first thing to remember and to try to be mindful of is just that sense of calm, because we live in a society that is very connected, and sometimes that doesn't serve us in the best way. And I think just kind of coming back to remembering to be calm, however that works for you, because a lot of people have different ways of remaining calm. I think that's really important, because when your energy is contagious, right? And so whether you are calm or whether you are super stressed out and very fearful, that is also kind of contagious. So I think doing your best to remain calm, and that looks like a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But I would say that's kind of the first thing. And for me, I'll just kind of share a little bit about what I do. It's a combination of just like regular practices and rituals about what fills my cup. So, I don't know if I've shared this with you, but during a great time of stress during my life, I had insomnia. And so for me, it was just like a cyclical thing, not sleeping, more anxiety, not sleeping, more anxiety. And I know I've seen that in my patients too, that it's a feedback loop that doesn't serve your highest and greatest good, right? So finding a way to nourish yourself, refill your cup. And so for me, sometimes that looks like grabbing a 20-minute nap if I can get it in. Taking baths. Epsom salt baths are really grounding. I know not everybody has access to a bathtub, but if you do, putting like 2 cups of Epsom salts I find really helpful, because magnesium also helps to relax the body. So if the body gets more relaxed, the mind has an easier chance of getting relaxed. And some sort of mindfulness practice. I just do like a personal style of meditation, and there's a lot of different ways to meditate. And sometimes people are even scared of that word. But some sort of stillness practice where you just get quiet and it's just you with you.
That makes a lot of sense. And So how do you suggest when people are feeling ramped up? Because I know that when I work with people, I talk about how anxiety has a life of its own. It's
Mhm.
like it becomes all of your reality. And so sometimes the whole idea of relaxing feels, but my anxiety is like, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
Why would I relax? This is really important to ramp up. So I'm just curious how you navigate that kind of path.
Mhm. I think breath work is really important because if we can change the if we can make if we can make an impact on the nervous system in our body even a little bit, that will start to decrease the heart rate and the blood pressure.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different breathing styles out there. I personally, one of my favorites is the 4-7-8 breath. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, but I bet an explanation would be wonderful.
Sure, sure. So for a lot of my anxiety patients, I teach them a breath called 4-7-8. And what that means is that it's three different ways to break up the breath. And so you inhale to the count of 4, you hold for the count of 7, and you exhale for the count of 8.
That was lovely to do for me even
Yeah.
just now. It just changed my energy.
Yeah, and so it changes it actually there's a physical change in the autonomic nervous system. And so excuse me, you exhale for double the length of the inhalation, you change the physiology in your
Hmm.
brain and in your body. So
I did
it's an easy, if you can remember 3 letters, you can remember how to do it.
three
Or three
letters,
numbers, excuse
three
me.
numbers. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I never knew about the doubling the length. It was very powerful. I knew
Mhm.
about exhaling really helps because when we're nervous, we tend to hold our breaths,
Yes. And
and
do
so
the chest breathing from just kind of like here, just kind of the upper chest breathing versus breathing lower, like beneath as some people call belly breathing or Buddha breathing, which is where you're pushing out your lower abdomen, making sure the air gets all the way down into those lower lobes of the lung. So you're not just like panting like a dog because that just makes our body feel more anxious.
that's.
So as long as you can slow the breath, which is exhaling double the amount of the inhale, really helps the body to do that.
And how do you work with both acupuncture or Chinese medicine and Reiki? Do you find those things mesh together for you?
I think they do. I think it's a great question. I think they really do because acupuncture, for people who aren't familiar with it, works with like the channels, the meridians in the body. And then, so we're moving energy around the body, we're moving chi around the body, we're making an influence on the local tissues and the blood flow to those local tissues and how the brain is responding, right? And with Reiki, the focus is really on the chakra system or the energy centers in the body. And so everything crisscrosses, our body, everything is so intimately connected in our body. And whether you're moving energy through a acupuncture channel or you're moving energy through a chakra, it's going to benefit you. So sometimes I do them separately, sometimes I combine them. It really kind of depends, what the patient needs.
That's interesting because when I've had acupuncture, there is that sense when the needles are in and you're just sort of waiting for somebody to come back, but there's a very powerful sense of something happening when I'm just sitting in the um,
Yeah,
in a session. So it'd be interesting to combine
it's
them both.
it's subtle, but it's still happening. We're so used to the sensory overload from our culture. Everything is like, intense and big and fleshy. And acupuncture is actually it can be sort of profound at sometimes, but usually for more emotional things like insomnia or stress, sometimes it's much more subtle.
Interesting. And then, do you just work with people in person?
I do distance Reiki sessions. I don't have to be in person for those, which is really great right now
Yeah.
since we're all at home.
Yeah. Distance Reiki is very interesting. I've level 1 or something in Reiki many years ago, but um, it confounds my conscious mind. It's sort of like, are you kidding me?
Right.
And it's been really powerful. Can you describe a little bit about what that's like for people getting it and for you giving it? And I'm assuming you've gotten it before as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their mind around, we're not together. How does this still work? And my answer, the short answer, that's not so short, is like quantum physics. We live in an energetic world, and everything's energy, so it's made up of frequency and vibration. And so you don't necessarily have to be next to somebody to have an impact on their energetic field. And so when you're sending Reiki to somebody, it can through, I think is it Reiki 2, Reiki level 2, you learn a new set of like protocols and skills and symbols to, excuse me, in order to send Reiki to somebody who's not there. Or you can send Reiki to like the earth, or, a loved one that might not be, with you, that, lives in a couple states over. So it really is a great way to still practice like healing and love and sharing that with people that are not physically in your physical space with you. So it's a really it's a really great practice. And usually when I'm working with somebody doing a distance session, I set up a time that is easy for them to relax and receive during that time. Because a lot of time when you're the recipient of Reiki, you might get different sensations, kind of like acupuncture. So you might get like tingles, or you might get like a little chill, or you might totally pass out. The Reiki sleep is real. So there's a lot of different sensations that you can have during a distance Reiki session that would be the same that you would have in person. And so generally I advise, if people are getting distance Reiki, to find a time to turn the lights down, light a candle, just be able to receive the energy.
That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Great. And is there anything else you would share with the people who are watching this about, what to do when the oh my God comes up?
Yeah. For a lot of people, I think movement is really important, because sometimes our brains get so overloaded. The animals. They talk about like the lion that like chases the deer. After if the lion doesn't chase the deer, and the deer is kind of like, oh, we just went through this like trauma, the deer kind of like shakes, like does a physical like shake to like get rid of that like pent up energy. We're the same way. So when we're feeling a little overwhelmed, whether it's with fear or with stress, or even with like anger or sadness, sometimes it's just like movement. And whether you're like a marathon runner, or you don't do too much movement, stretching the body, moving the body, getting out into nature, getting out into the sunshine, I think is really important to just kind of keep us grounded.
Yeah, those are really good things. That's great. Wonderful. Wonderful. I feel like I've known you so much more just from this conversation. It's great. It's great.
Thanks. I mean, there's so much good conversation going on right now about managing your mind, managing your energy, just remaining calm, because there is nobody that is not affected by what's going on right now.
No, we're all connected. We're all one. And this is, there is some. What helps me some is stepping out of my concern. I think that I'm in Seattle, and I think we're going to go into shelter in place, which is such an odd term, but and so my energy ramped up, and so stepping out of my own fear into the bigger picture has really helped. Knowing that this is showing really how humans are all connected, that we're not in little isolated places, and how I've just been curious about the carbon emissions reduction, and just what that's doing for the earth, and that helped. And the other piece too is, because you were talking about calming down, is in my view, we operate on many levels at the same time. And so when that feeling of fear and anxiety becomes so thick you can't see through it, it's useful to remember that there is another level operating still. So this morning I woke up and sort of spinning my head out, and I started to say, I'm panicky and I'm okay. So remembering that both of those experiences existed helped my calm. I wasn't trying to get rid of the panic. It's like, this is a circumstance, I have to get used to it, but I was looking at a different place to look at my life from. And it's what I encourage for my clients too. It's like, that exists, we can work with it, and it's also useful to remember that it's not the total reality.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
I think that's a really important point, because we get to decide how we feel, right? And so there's room for multiple emotions. We can feel a little pressure and a little squeezed, but we can also put that into perspective and, move through our life and do what we need to do and still find things that are uplifting and joyful. And I think part of what's so wonderful about what you're doing with this is that you have decided to serve right now. And that pulls you out of that like fear spiral, that panic spiral, when you're like, what can I do? What can I do to serve?
Yeah, because I think that what happens is that you know that you have something to give. And so, you remember there's more to you than the panic state. So I think that's really true. That's really true. Yeah. And when I help people move into rest, when they can't sleep, because it provides many of the benefits of sleep, it is also about changing perspectives. Because, I have 7 pathways to rest, and a lot of it is not just the rules that people have been told what to do, but it's what's your relationship. So what's your relationship to um, your environment? It's like, how do you create a cocoon, but how do you feel like you can really settle into that kind of place? And what's your relationship to your body? Because so often we feel like our bodies are tools to carry our minds around. But in these times, it's sort of, and it's true that, when you settle into your body and sort of, even just putting 2 hands on your heart, there's glands there, and, moving it can really change your sense of holding on in your chest and letting go. And also, the mind gets so caught up in stories, the stories that we tell when we're anxious. I think that this is very obvious to you, but when our bodies get ramped up, the mind starts telling stories, which just ramps up the body more, and it's just like to spin. So being able to find a way, something to come back to, not even eliminating that spin because it's something that's happening, but how to start to divert it. So coming back to letting go 5%. It's not that we have to sort of become all mellow, but it's like, even just knowing that we can let go of our shoulders 5%, it just permeates into the rest of the body. So,
And thank you. Yeah, I think that's great that you focus in your work. You focus so much on the wholeness of the body, because a lot of people are just so disconnected from it. It's either here or here, not both.
right.
And so I think that's really important in the work that you're sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things, and it'd be lovely to bounce this off of you, because I've had this theory for a while. When people have done relaxation exercises, they often do it from the feet up. And my understanding from what I've known about Eastern Asian medicine is that the energy for relaxation flows from the top down. And so I encourage people to start with the top of their head and rest their head and their eyes and their jaw, because we hold so much tension in our faces that, just even opening the jaw can help some of this tension that we're holding on release. And once that releases, you can move into a sense of just resting into that space, which even just for nanoseconds at a time, when you keep coming back to it, they build on each other. And then those nanoseconds turns to moments of time, to minutes of time, to long periods of time that you're not watching your clock, wondering if you're asleep, thinking of how you're going to do the next day. And I think too, just understanding how the energy flows can really change that. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, I think starting from the top down is really helpful because we live in a world that's ruled by gravity, right? And so it just kind of makes sense that to start from the top
Yeah.
down. And I like that you build upon it like moment by moment to minute 2 minutes. Because I think a lot of people are intimidated that they don't get it right the first time and they beat themselves up because of that. And so it's like any other skill or any other
Yeah.
muscle. It takes practice.
Yep. Yep. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and
Mhm.
still, I have a variety of tools. And one of the reasons I do that is because insomnia, I don't get it. I used to have chronic insomnia, which is when I developed this, and I don't have that anymore. But you know, I'm alive. I'm human. Sometimes sleep doesn't come, and so I use the tools to help me move into sleep through rest. But they're not the same. Sometimes playing games with the mind can be really useful at night because
Mhm.
it gives your mind something less personal. Your mind, your mind is like thinks it's king of the universe, or queen of the universe,
Yes.
and so your relationship to your mind to say, okay, I got you. I understand you think you're in charge. I understand you think you can figure this whole thing out if we just stay up. But wow, how about if you name all the flowers you can that start with the letter A, and then B, and then C. And it gives the mind, because the mind likes to solve problems. So you're saying,
Mhm.
here's a problem you can solve. And that's not the same as trying to figure out if you have enough toilet paper in the house, because when you do that, your body's like this. But when your mind is figuring out something really basic, it's
Mhm.
more complicated than counting sheep. And again, it's something to come back to.
Mhm.
It allows your body to do what it really wants to do, which is to let go. But the mind and body are not different, and we can approach it from so many different angles.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's so important.
And the other piece, when I was starting to talk about something bigger, is tapping into the emotion of gratitude. And for me, it's more than listing the things. I mean, I think that as difficult as this is, that for many of us with a certain level of privilege, it is a deeply intense annoyance, but we have food and we have our houses and a place to live and we have the internet to communicate with each other. And so I think there's a level of understanding what's going on in the whole world and opening our hearts to that as
Mhm.
much as we can, with also honoring taking in as much as we can when we can, because it's a lot. And so balancing ourselves. But there is that feeling of thinking about what you're grateful for, my family, being in this house, and really sinking into that feeling of gratitude, not just checking off a list. And I find that it broadens where I am. It broadens my connection with being alive. And it certainly makes me connect to it more to the mystery of life,
Mhm.
divine, whatever you want to call it, by just allowing that feeling of gratitude to settle in.
Yeah. Our hearts are magnetic, so anytime we can really sink into our heart with a strong emotion, like appreciation or gratitude, it expands. It's an expansive feeling that feels so rich and lovely. So that's something that I like to do at night in bed myself before I go to sleep. So I find that really relaxing.
So, what that meaning, feeling your heart or gratitude?
Sort of going through gratitude and like really connecting with the emotion of it, of the things that I'm pulling out from the day, and just kind of like nestling into that feeling. And then it's just it's very for me it's very restful. And
Mhm.
then
Yep,
like,
yep.
it really, like we were saying, it really helps for my body to slow down and to just make it 5% more comfortable,
Hmm.
10% more comfortable, and then the momentum
It does.
starts.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think the same thing is true when you say that, is for people not to worry if their shoulders are tense while their heart is open. You know, those two things can happen at the same time. And it's where you're coming from in your body at night in this time of great change. You know, it's like you can choose your point of reference. So.
Absolutely.
So there's one thing I'm really disappointed about, which is that you're in Chicago and I'm in Seattle.
I know. I grew up outside of Seattle, though.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, over in Kitsap County.
Okay, great. And I wouldn't invite you over for a cup of tea, but we could go for a walk if worlds were different. So.
Yes. Absolutely.
Good. So at the end of this, I'm hoping to have our links up so people can contact you and they'll know where to do it. And is there anything else that you want to share to the people who are tuning in?
Just that you're doing amazing. And, you know, we always do the best that we can with what we have. And that's always changing. But, you know, just know that, you know, you're a sovereign being and stay in your heart. And we're all in this together. So, you know, you're not alone.
Yeah. People are definitely not alone. And I'm just noticing that that energy of connection is starting to build, you know.
Very much so.
Yeah. And there's people that can support the journey. Good. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm so glad to have gotten to know you this way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. And, you know, just sending like love to everybody who watches this.
Yes. And that's an energy that continues to go even when people come back to this and see it. Because I feel it from you. And I think that energy is here. It's nice to notice it.